even though he tells me he loves me every day. I've been married to my husband for almost 8 years now, but I feel like I can't waste any more of my life being with him. He wants to keep fighting to save our relationship, but I don't feel like there's anything left to save. We were both raised in the same high-control religion that didn't want us dating and tried to force us apart on multiple occasions. I didn't feel like they had a right to get in the way of our relationship, so I got rebellious and just decided to elope with him because then they wouldn't be able to separate a married couple. However, after we eloped they shut us out of the community and we lost all of our friends and family contact became minimal. I felt like it was my husband and I against the world. I thought we would be strong enough together after fighting so hard to escape our toxic religious background, but things didn't quite work out that way. While I was trying to process my feelings and put the past behind me, he became consumed with hate and was constantly complaining. For the first couple of years I had put myself to work in order to provide for us while he was unemployed, gaming all day, not doing any household chores. We decided together that we needed to pursue a higher education that would secure us financial freedom when we both got a decent paying job afterward. I worked hard when it came down to my education. I had a paid internship and studied at the same time. My husband, on the other hand, put minimal effort into his studies and got several warnings about being kicked out due to his low attendance. With only one semester left, he ended up dropping out for mental health reasons. This was also my last semester and I now had the added stress of him dropping out, his mental breakdown, my grandmother passing away, and my brother being terminally ill. It got so bad that I broke down in front of my boss and started crying because the pressure was so hard on me. I had gotten so far behind on everything that I didn't think I would make it. Thankfully my boss was kind enough to help me through the rest of my studies so that I could graduate that summer and also gave me a full-time job at the same place right after. It's been almost 1.5 years since my husband dropped out and he's still wasting away his life at home, doing nothing except gaming, drinking, and sleeping. I had to drag him to a psychiatrist after he kept talking about harming himself. After a line of sessions and medical treatment, they told us that he was no longer clinically depressed and recommended that he talk with a psychologist to work through any past traumas and also suggested he get a job, as it would be good for him to get out of the house, but he's done none of that. During all of this, I've become extremely lonely in our marriage. When I told my husband that I was feeling overwhelmed by everything going on, he accused me of piggybacking on his depression in order to get attention. A few months ago, we had a huge fight and during the heat of it, he admitted that he was so embarrassed about my physical appearance that he had canceled a gaming night at our place with some friends he met online. I was disappointed because how could he be embarrassed of the woman who supported him for all these years and fought so hard to get an education in order to provide us with a better life? He'd taken all of my efforts for granted while the only thing he was busy doing was being a lazy slob with a drinking problem that couldn't even be bothered to contribute financially or help around the house. Ever since this argument, I've refused to tell him I love him and pulled away all affection. I began wondering if I'd be better off alone than in a marriage with someone who tells me he loves me but does nothing to show it. On top of all of this, my brother recently passed away, and we buried him last week. My husband hates how this has resulted in me spending more time with my family, who I had gone low contact on since we left the religion. I don't know why my husband insisted on coming considering how vocal he was about hating my family, but he ended up drinking way too much, enough for people to notice. On the way home, he started talking about how my deceased brother probably had some kid-loving tendencies and I couldn't believe my ears. He was acting so disgusting towards my brother on the same day we buried him. When we got home he continued his drinking and got angry with me, complaining how he felt trapped in a loveless marriage. He gave me an ultimatum, telling me that I had to tell him right there that I loved him or it was over between us. I wasn't in the mood for his empty threats, so I told him to sleep on the couch that night. The next day I stopped on the way home to buy moving boxes in order to show him just how serious I took his threat. He was in total disbelief and called his mother, who came over and tried to smooth things over. For the past week since then, he's been extremely nice and acting like nothing happened. He won't stop hugging or kissing me and telling me he loves me. It honestly feels like he's love bombing to convince me to stay, but I'm currently looking for an apartment, and my family is on standby to help me move whenever I find a place. I feel like a bad person for leaving him while he's depressed, but I also feel like 8 years is a long time to wait for him to get his life together. I can't keep pushing back my own issues and constantly put a brave face for the both of us. I'm too tired for that. I feel like I deserve to be selfish now for once in my life and take care of me. Update: I want to leave my husband, even though he tells me he loves me every day. After avoiding each other for around a week and not speaking, we finally sat down and talked it out. I made it clear to him that I had made up my mind and that I was going to divorce him while also choosing to move out. He was surprisingly calm and said he understood why I felt that way. In his opinion, he believed I was making a mistake and he wanted us to work it out, but he didn't blame me for wanting to leave him. The days following our talk were more tough on me than I had anticipated. Instead of avoiding each other, he was being incredibly nice to me and we were able to have somewhat normal conversations. It made me remember how things used to be and it was hard to fight back tears. Even now as I write this I can't hold back my tears. I really did love him, and I thought he was the one I was going to grow old with. It's been a very tough decision to leave him and actually go through with it, but I knew I had to be strong instead of doubting myself. I knew he wasn't going to change if I stayed. I was lucky to find a great apartment within walking distance from my work, where I could move in with very short notice. My mother and one of my brothers had both lent me half of the money for the deposit, since I hadn't been able to put any money aside while having to support my husband. A few days before I moved out I filed for our divorce online. In my country we have the option to get divorced directly without any separation period if both parties agree on it and can agree on how to split assets. I didn't really care about any of the stuff in our home and would rather just get it over with instead of giving him a reason to fight me on it. So I just suggested that I take everything I brought with me when we got married and a few big items I was the only one who used. I don't know if he would have made things more difficult if I asked for more, but it wasn't worth the risk to ask. He agreed to my conditions and we filed for divorce. After a month of processing time we got our divorce papers, and I'm now officially divorced. I have a long amount of healing ahead of me, but I have no doubt in my mind that I made the right decision. I've been spending a lot of time with my family after having been low contact for so many years. Not long before all of this happened, my oldest brother had passed away after being sick for such a long time. He was really looking forward to meeting our first nephew, the son of our youngest brother, but he never got the chance considering that he passed on the same night the baby was born in the same hospital. I don't really care that much for babies and can't see myself wanting one of my own. My nephew is so precious to me. Whenever I hold him in my arms it makes me feel like everything is going to be okay. It may sound a bit cliché, but I'm spending time finding myself and my place in this world. I feel love and support from my family, so even though I'm not married anymore, I don't really feel as alone as I did when I was married. As for my ex, we still keep in touch and are on friendly terms. He seems to be doing better and our divorce has forced him out of his comfort zone to be able to take care of himself. He tells me he still hopes that one day, maybe years from now, we'll find our way back together. Although I wish we could start over and make it work, real life doesn't work like that. We'd fall back into our old habits and the pattern would repeat itself, so all we can do now is move on and wish each other the best.